Hey, Dani, it's Jody Dimling with Cardinal Authority. Just the start that you guys have had, and can you kind of take us through the first part of the season? And you've played a tough schedule, and you've come through undefeated to this point.
Yeah, I mean, we had a really nice non-conference schedule and played 3 top 10 teams within 10 days, and we kind of wanted to build up to that. So it's not surprising to beat a top 10 team once, but to do 3 in a row is quite an accomplishment. So that just propelled us as we go into ACC play to have a little more confidence and feel like we can really compete at a national level every single day.
Hey, Dani, Shannon Russell from the Courier-Journal. You have a lot of very key players back from last season's team, but I wanted to ask you about Tori Dilfer, who's back as a grad student. How important is that to what you're doing, just knowing she's coming back as the ACC Setter of the Year, and kind of just her integral role in getting to where you are at this point?
Tori's huge, and like you said, being a setter, being experienced, being a captain. I mean, she does a lot for this team besides just setting the ball. And so just having her back has made all the difference. And we had a great team. We didn't have to rely on a freshman or somebody who hasn't actually set in a big match, to lead this team. So it also allows us to redshirt some younger players, which will be really important for the future of this program. So yes, I'm very thankful she's back, and we would not be where we are right now without Tori.
Can you talk about Elena Scott's kind of rise? She's already been 3-time ACC Player of the Week, and that's usually not given to a libero, so that's even more impressive. And as we have heard, she's kind of following your career and being known as a setter, and then moving to libero and being equally successful in that position.
Well, we recruited Elena as a libero, so even though she's set in high school, we knew that was going to be her path here. So she's been great. She has such a high volleyball IQ, which comes from probably the setter position, and so just being able to have that from a defensive standpoint has really just helped with the confidence, the smoothness of our backcourt. And in the past, that's been a weakness of ours, and this year it's not. It's a strength. So big part of that is because of her. So just the transition she's made is really exceptional for a freshman, and then on top of that, a freshman playing a new position.
Dani, your team has only dropped 4 sets this entire season thus far, and it's been 4 matches since you did. What does that say about your team in terms of its cohesiveness and everyone kind of doing their job?
Yeah, I think it says a ton about everybody doing their job and trusting their roles and trusting the coaching staff and being able to make adjustments. We haven't played the exact same lineup every match, so that's even more impressive when you think we've hardly dropped any sets. But I just think this team's really hungry to prove themselves, and they don't give up, they don't get down, they're very steady from a mental standpoint, and that's allowed us to play so consistently.
And then I guess to build off that, how does the team kind of take that momentum and kind of galvanize to go to these 2 back-to-back ACC matches?
Yeah, I think it just goes back to knowing what we're great at, and as we talk about in practice, is not to lose our identity. And we're going to have quite a test this weekend at Georgia Tech. Clemson, who's playing great, but Georgia Tech is number 18 in the country. They beat Penn State. They feel really good about their season. So hopefully we can go into there mentally tough as well.
Dani, it's Jody again. Can you just kind of go through how much the experience, obviously having 2 fifth-year players back helps, but having the experience in depth is what has been kind of a key to the success for this year. How much is that a key, I guess, the experience you have back and the depth that you have on your roster?
I think experience and depth would be, I think it's key for teams all across the country. So almost all the top teams have a 5th-year senior back. And so the teams that don't actually kind of stick out this season. So it's pretty interesting with, the COVID extra year that athletes were granted. So it really helps just put us on par with the other teams in the country and has allowed us to compete with them. And then the depth is huge because we can keep players fresh and keep players sharp and, really, really hopefully set us up to be great in December, mentally and physically.
Louisville's like top 5 team in the country in blocking, and we have several players ranked really high as blocking. I think they're are almost as jacked about being a good blocking team as they are about being a winning team. I think they take a ton of pride in that. And how have you instilled that in your team?
It's really just about what you focus on and what you practice and what you want your identity to be. And we've always been very defensive focused, and we just so happen to have some great blockers, so that helps. But we know that other teams can prep for us offensively, but you can't prep for a great defense. And so that's one of our mottos, and it's working out well.
And I think that Georgia Tech, they play a little bit different than a lot of different teams in the ACC. What are you looking forward to seeing from them when we go there? I know they always have a rocking crowd. It's always super loud in there, and it's Michelle has an interesting, persona.
Georgia Tech's really offensive, so they're almost the opposite of us. They probably work on offense as much as we work on defense. So they've got some really talented attackers and players that can put the ball away. So it'll be an interesting matchup to see, offensive-minded team versus a defensive-minded team.
I see ESPN has come on. Can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me, Dani? This is Keely Evelyn. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm so excited for you, and I'm cheering for you from the back end. I know your whole I remember when you were just an assistant at Louisville, and then talking to you going to your dream was Nebraska, and then you get the head coaching role. I'm amazed about your first time head coaching, the success you've had. What do you think? What do you credit that success to?
Honestly, I would say, resources here at Louisville definitely help. And then I have a great staff, and just surrounding, myself with great people and letting them, work to their strengths and capitalize on theirs, which allows me to capitalize on mine. So I think our staff and the culture with the coaching staff bleeds into the team. And that's really how we play. You don't see players trying to play outside of themselves or do anything crazy. It's just we're all great at our roles, and we have a great understanding of our roles, and that starts with me all the way to the managers.
It's just amazing. And I just heard when I hopped on the call, you were talking about your defensive strategy. I know you finished your career as libero. You started your career as a setter. What part of the system do you enjoy coaching, or are you just an overview of everything?
Well, I personally like to coach setters, even though I was probably more successful personally as a libero, but love coaching setters and kind of having a little bit of hand in offense. And, Dan Meskey coaches our defense, and he does a great job. So that's, just one example of us playing to our strengths. And, I let him do his thing. And obviously we all make adjustments and suggestions, but personally, I like to coach setters.
I can see the smile. I was like, heck yeah, I want the setter, always the setter. Talk to me, speaking of setters, Tori Dilfer. She's coming back for her graduate year. What has her progression been throughout now lead a team? You're third in the nation. That's incredible. Now as a starter setter for years.
Yeah, she had some work to do when she got to Louisville, and she had to earn that starting spot. It was kind of a battle her first year here, and by the end of the year she had earned it. And I think a lot of that is just with her intangibles. She's a great leader. She wants to be great. She's a student of the game, which allows her to be great in big moments. And so, she led us to our first ever Elite Eight in 2019, and she didn't even start that whole year. So just really impressive what she's done. She's got great trust with the staff and the rest of her team. And, it's just, like I said, her intangibles are insanely impressive. And she's a huge, huge reason why we continued to climb the last 2 years.
Yeah, it's insane. You're like going through the nation, and there's a lot of people don't have a lot of respect for ACC volleyball. First off, they always think, oh, when you play Nebraska, you're gonna lose, or when you take a top team down like a Kentucky, you're gonna lose because you're ACC volleyball, whatever. But you're destroying teams. What do you think? It's just awesome. I'm like so happy every time I see it. I'm like, what do you think, like the difference when you watch your team? They compete. They're going out. They're putting their foot on the throat of their opponent. What do you think that environment has helped you guys now just take whoever you're facing and destroy them?
Yeah, I think, we do have a chip on our shoulder because of that. And, even as successful as we are, sometimes it does feel like we're underdogs, and we have that mentality. And I think a lot of that does come from the ACC. And even after we beat Nebraska, we had to talk about in the locker room that ACC doesn't really care who you've beaten. Like, there's the good teams and the best teams in the ACC, they fight till the very end, because everybody's out to prove themselves, and everybody's on the same mission in the conference to raise the level, which has been really cool to see the last couple of years.
Yeah, and you got Georgia Tech. I hopped in at the end of that talk when you were talking about Georgia Tech, but it's on Sunday. It's a big match because it's probably one of the only times, except when Georgia Tech plays Pitt, that they're considered the underdogs, right? You guys are obviously like the top dog in this battle. So what do you think going into it as you scout them? What are some strategies that you're going to kick in? And I promise I'm not sharing this with Tech.
They're just really offensive minded. So, we know that we can slow them down defensively. And if we do, we should be pretty successful on our offensive end. But, we're really balanced, and I think it's really hard for teams to prep for us because you have to respect everybody in our team, because we do a great job of giving the ball and being balanced at the end of matches. We have the similar stat lines for everybody. So we'll need to do that against Georgia Tech. That's for sure.
Yeah, I was amazed. And I was looking at the top 10 stats for the ACC. You don't have one hitter in your top 10 kills per set. And I was like, go setter, go. That's how you do it. And that's how you're successful, if you can spread that ball around. One person I want to ask you about is Anna Stevenson. She's 5th in the nation for, hitting percentage. Like, she's almost like an automatic kill when you give her the ball. How often are you looking for that set?
As much as we can. So, she's a 5th year as well, and senior who wants to be great. And we're going to get her the ball as much as we can.
And then just lastly, your ball control. I know you're libero, you train it. It's so funny. People want me to say libero, but I'm like struggling with that. But I'm like libero, whatever. The back row game, your backcourt game, your hitters how important is that to have hitters that can pass and attack? Because I think of club volleyball nowadays, a lot of times they take the big hitters out of the back row and they leave that back row game, but you're using everything.
Yep. We train everybody to do everything. And so when they can do it at a high level, it just makes our offense a lot easier. And, Claire and DeBeer are both really, really good passers. So when we don't have to sub them out, it really makes our team cohesive. And, our DSs have put up unbelievable numbers this year. So, yeah, our ball control obviously allows us to be so balanced. So it starts there.
Amazing.
Dani, thank you for joining us. Yeah,
yep, sorry.
Thank you for joining us. Thanks for everybody being with us. For Dani, we'll pause just a moment.